Hi, I'm Peter Souza, and this talk is going to be about H.U.M.N, a practical QA framework for the age of AI. The AI production paradox. AI writes code fast, builds plan fast, can design graphics, create graphics, and design user flows. Planning, design, implementation are all merging into one hyper-fast cycle. All of this AI productivity is possible, but humans still need to approve everything. There's a lot of upstream momentum, and QA can't be stuck downstream at the end of a product cycle. Human-centric, user-focused, multidisciplinary, nuanced. Shifting from QA as a final gate to QA as a continuous partner. The only way to keep pace and add value is for QA to be present from project inception as a fully invested and fully informed risk partner. It requires a new mindset defined by the H.U.M.N method, human-centric, user-focused, multidisciplinary, nuanced. Human-centric. AI can follow specs, but it can't feel when a product is wrong. QA professionals must use their innate human intuition to question design and functionality on a fundamental level. This is exploratory gut check sessions. Challenge counterintuitive flows before they are set in motion. Catch costly architectural flaws at the beginning when they're easily fixed. User-focused. A product that's functional but also frustrates users is a failure. Test for usability, acting from a place of empathy. Put yourself in the user's shoes. Put yourself in the user's emotional state. Examine the product or the application from the user's perspective. This directly connects QA activities to user satisfaction. This is the ultimate goal of quality. Multidisciplinary. AI is going to be fast, and quality cannot be a silo. QA must be an integrated partner with design, product management, engineering, legal, and compliance. Embed QA in design reviews and backlog grooming. Create shared regulatory checklists with legal. QA should be a collaborative resource and not a final roadblock. This is going to prevent silos and reduce rework, which means QA needs to be involved from the beginning as part of the planning team. And QA needs to have knowledge of all these potential quality risk elements. QA doesn't necessarily need to be an expert in all of these domains, but we do need to have awareness that accessibility issues might be a problem, or that legal claims can't be made on a website. Nuanced. A feature can meet every spec and still harm the overall product. QA must understand the real-world context of the entire system. It just means conducting end-to-end workflow testing, or produce a readiness report, inform the team of risk beyond individual ticket acceptance criteria. We don't make a puzzle one piece at a time. A puzzle is created with the whole picture in mind. Protect the brand by preventing release of features that work in isolation but fail in part of a practical, integrated workflow. Principles into practice. A methodology is only as powerful as its practice. Principles are good, guidance is better, and habits are make or break. So this Souza format templates help integrate the human mindset directly into your team's daily workflow. This isn't necessarily telling people how you should work. This is giving teams an example of a minimum consistent workflow, minimum consistent information to be passed between people and AI workers. Product manager team epic template. This would be for an epic, which would contain multiple stories with the objective of completing a larger feature. So here we can see title, description, feature elements and design requirements, associated tickets. So ideally there would be a work ticket for each feature element. If there's 5 feature elements to go into a user's table, then each of those 5 features would have an associated ticket. Users can create a new user from the user's table. Users can sort table by username, and so on. Technical considerations and dependencies, stakeholders, overall acceptance criteria. This is for the epic. This is minimum suggested information. This keeps things consistent between team members and between teams, between humans, and between your AI coworkers. Engineering workflow template. Engineering is a little more straightforward. These are smaller bites of the PM epic template. Title, description, implementation details, acceptance criteria. Implementation details are details on the technical approach. Did we have to create a new database table? Were we able to add a column to an existing table? Did we have to modify a data factory? Or did we create a new data factory? Acceptance criteria is a list of requirements that must be met. This is useful for the engineer and for QA and for product managers. This again is the minimum suggested information to remain consistent across all employees and your AI coworkers. QA bug template. Reporting bugs is important, not just for immediate action, but for long-term documentation purposes. Even if you never get back to it, even if it goes into the icebox, document it so we have a record of behavior and discoveries. Title, current result. Tell people what's going on right now. The expected result. This is what should be happening, and steps to reproduce. You can also put logs in here, screenshots, date discovered, anything like that. Related tickets to related bugs, even suggested code fixes. I've added code snippets before to show where the error is coming from and suggestions on how to fix based on current patterns. Steps to reproduce. This should be very easy to follow and very descriptive, written in a way that anyone from any other team without product knowledge can follow this and reproduce this bug, because you never know who's going to be working on it, and you can't have meetings with everyone who wants to look at it or work on it to explain what you meant by a certain term. This again is a minimum suggested consistent data that would be needed to accurately and completely describe a bug to your team members or AI counterparts. This is not telling people how to work. This is a minimum suggested consistent detail. Automation template for QA. Sometimes QA automation departments are separate from their manual departments. They might be different teams, different people, or they might be the same team doing two different tasks. However you do it, this is what I would suggest as a minimum information payload to communicate to your human coworkers and any AI reviewers in the company. You'll need a title, the automation goal, initial status. Is this test written or not? Is it flaky? Is it broken? Is it outdated? Is it soon to be outdated? Linked manual case ID. Link the automation to the manual case to be sure that cross coverage is happening and that both are being updated. Test data requirements, whatever specific test data you need, account credentials, specific product, dependencies, any preconditions that are required for testing, like environment setup, dependent services, or features that are not yet implemented that will be implemented soon. Like, don't start this ticket until ticket 407 is complete. Pull request template. This is for merging code and suggested code edits, title, description of change, linked tickets. This is a direct ticket to the problem that's being solved by this code. Implementation details, anything new you've done, like a new library was introduced or style package was updated. How to test. Clear numbered steps that a QA professional or other engineer can follow to verify the changes. This is important because some bugs and code changes can be highly elaborate and highly cornered, and it can be really hard for people to understand what's actually going on in the code. And it might be something very specific, like nested screenshots are undiscoverable. And testing it might take quite a bit of setup. Please include that setup. And if you can, include an environment that already has that setup, or explain the setup in the environment. Whatever it is, this again is not telling people how to work. This is a minimum consistent detail suggested for your human workers and AI counterparts. Clarity and consistency is the key. How-to documents, title, objective, prerequisites, make sure everyone has what they need, step-by-step instructions. This is an unambiguous actions, single steps, and screenshots. Guide someone who lacks product knowledge. These should be step-by-step instructions that anyone in the department can follow. So someone in copy might need to follow this. Someone in legal might need to follow this. Someone in leadership who doesn't know about the software might need to follow this. Include a verification, so a clear description of expected outcomes so somebody knows when they've done it correctly. Troubleshooting common issues are really helpful, and who to contact. Domain experts, authors, responsible parties, the developers who created the feature, the QAs who tested the feature, the person who wrote the document, whoever it might be. These again are minimal details that can remain consistent. Plain language documentation template. So this is more of a given when then style writing. Feature name, user story. So this is a brief sentence. User stories are usually a byte long. This is a brief sentence, a description of the goal from the user's perspective. Scenario name, which is very brief. Successful login with valid credentials, right? Something very direct. Just people need to be able to understand this at a glance. And the steps. Given, this is the precondition. When, the action performed by the user. Then, the outcome. You can have more given and when, then, and when there's multiple, but typically given, when, then should be enough. And these should be very easy to follow. This is a more matter-of-fact type of documentation. The how-to is a little informal and in paragraph format. This given, when, then documentation should be much more formal and technical, but very, very easy to follow. That's the reason it's broken up into given, when, then. So it's very clear what's the precondition, what's the action performed, and what is the expected outcome. This is, again, just a minimal detail. You can add more if you want, but this is suggested minimum for human workers and for your AI counterparts. READMEs are very important for new employees or existing employees, people who are troubleshooting. A README might include project description, core features, technology stack, prerequisites, getting started, running tests, and how to contribute. This again is just a minimal outline of what can be included to communicate the minimal amount of details required on a consistent basis. The old way, QA is at the end of the cycle, validates tickets, asks, did we meet requirements? The scope is restricted mostly to functional bugs, and it's a bottleneck that causes lifecycle churn. Previously, we had a bottle, which was engineering and development, and at the end of the bottle was a bottleneck, which was QA. QA would tick the ticket back. It would go all the way through engineering, design, and go back to QA. The human way, risk partner. QA is involved from project inception. QA's primary role is to assess risk and champion the user. Focus is no longer did we meet requirements, but did we build the right thing right? Functional usability, legal, brand liability, all kinds of issues QA can be aware of and give their opinion on. The result, QA is no longer a bottleneck at the end of an avalanche. QA now rides the wave from inception to the destination as a partner. Here are some easy ways of implementing H.U.M.N today. Easy wins with individual actions. Use a QA bug template for your next bug. Examine your project's README and identify one improvement. Team plays with collaborative actions. Run one gut check session. Introduce and adopt the PR template for all code merges. If you're in a QA team that does automation, introduce a template. Those are easy enough to create, and those act globally. Create a how-to document for a critical team process. This will involve steps, knowledge. You might have to contact the engineers who develop the feature. You'll have to have screenshots. This is an involved process, which is why it's in collaborative actions. But it is relatively easy to implement, and you'll see an impact. Larger cultural shifts. Invite QA leads to all new project design reviews. When PMs or project management, engineering managers are planning out a feature, invite a QA to those meetings. Invite QA to talk about icons and talk about colors, talk about hover states. Invite QA to the design meetings and see where things go. Adopt the QA bug and QA automation and PR templates for one complete project. So if you have a feature, an entire epic that is going to be completed, adopt these few templates in the QA process and see how it goes through that project. If it goes well, great. Add it for other projects. If it doesn't, change it so that it works for you. But overall, the QA process needs to change if we are going to remain productive with the AI productivity avalanche that is coming down the line. How will you apply human in your work? QA can't be an afterthought. QA can't be a nice to have. AI is far too productive and far too fast for QA to not be involved from the beginning. It's the only way we will keep up pace. QA involved from the beginning. Contact me. There's my email. There's my website. Let me know what you think. Happy coding.